The Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro sat down with Dave Rubin, publicly addressing the controversy over conservative commentator Candace Owens' split from the Daily Wire.
Can you at least talk to just sort of where it's at now? She's not with you. She's free.
She's free to do whatever she wants to do, to be wherever she wants to be.
So that's the first time I think that Shapiro has publicly addressed what happened, Jessica. Of course, Candace Owens was let go, fired, something to that effect. We don't really know who instigated the split, but it seemed like it was from the Daily Wire side. That seemed to be in response to Candace Owens talking about the war in Gaza and questioning why the United States is giving aid to Israel. She's also come into a little bit of a feud with Ben Shapiro over Christianity versus Judaism and this fight over whether saying Christ is king is anti-Semitic, a bunch of other weird online stuff. But the Daily Wire is taking a lot of heat for this separation from Candace Owens, including from conservatives and people on the right who are pointing out that there's a very anti-interventionist strain of the conservative movement now that was really brought out by former President Donald Trump, and it shouldn't be a reason to let someone go from a conservative media outlet because they decide to raise questions about the U.S.'s relationship with Israel.
Absolutely. I think to hear Ben Shapiro say Candace Owens is free to go anywhere she wants, I think with the exception of the Daily Wire, right? She can't continue to do her show on the Daily Wire if she wants to. We covered when that news broke that actually Candace Owens said at the end of the day before's episode, so it would have been Thursday's episode, "I'll see you all tomorrow," which suggests that this was a surprise to Candace Owens and came from the Daily Wire. So it doesn't seem that this was a relationship that ended amicably, and it almost gives, deference to these sentiments around cancel culture that, of course, Ben Shapiro has been critical of cancel culture, but it appears he has a soft spot for his own community or a community he identifies with or his own beliefs. That kind of goes against being against cancel culture. If you truly don't like cancel culture and you want to live in a world where public forums were free to discuss any ideas, you can't make an exception for your own community or the state of Israel. That's just not how it works. And it seems to me that, maybe Ben's like, okay, I'll respect Candace Owens' opinion, but I don't want to pay her at the Daily Wire. That would be fine if he didn't say, we have you at the Daily Wire and we're here to empower your opinion and say your beliefs. It seems to me that you get someone on board at a network, and if they go in a different direction from you, the main host, you kind of don't want them to be around anymore. Is it cancel culture? Is it just a difference of opinion? I'm kind of on the point of, sounds like she was fired, sounds like a cancellation to me, sounds like you canceled her show.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, elsewhere in this Dave Rubin interview, Ben Shapiro compared this to the idea that the Daily Wire would hire someone who was pro-abortion. And he says, we would never do that because there are certain opinions that we want to platform or certain perspectives that we want to platform because we feel like others are adequately addressed by the mainstream media. But the whole point of them bringing Candace on in the first place is that she was sort of a more independent voice who was not didn't come up as a conservative commentator, really made a movement from being somewhat progressive to becoming a conservative, has talked about that shift in her beliefs, and in some cases, because of that, doesn't always agree with what might be considered the typical conservative or Republican line on all issues. And that was something that viewers really appreciated about her, is that it seemed like she was trying to approach things independently and with an open mind and reaching her own conclusions on them. And the Daily Wire, I guess, just didn't like that when it came time for her to address some criticism of Israel. And the Daily Wire in particular is especially, I think, hypocritical for this move because they specifically started their own publishing agency and entertainment company for the purpose of hiring on people who had been fired from Hollywood because they didn't hold the quote-unquote right opinions for the liberal elite in that industry. So, Like, they brought on Gina Carano after she was fired from The Mandalorian by Disney. They brought over other actors and brought on scripts that might not have been made by traditional Hollywood studios. And the whole point of this, multi-million, $100 million investment into this entertainment arm was, we're going to basically platform the things that weren't considered acceptable by the people who typically control the entertainment industry. So then to turn around and give a platform to someone who was one of those people, essentially, who couldn't get platformed by the mainstream corporate media, and then decide suddenly that they were too toxic for you, I mean, that strikes me as an issue, right? They're doing basically the same thing of what they accuse the rest of the media and the entertainment industry of doing, which was deplatforming people who might have expressed an opinion that they determined was outside of their Overton window, as Ben Shapiro put it. And to be fair, I think that there's things that people could say on media outlets that would justify a cancellation or a firing because they express things that are genuinely threatening, or say something that is constantly saying things that are factually incorrect. I could understand that. Obviously, anyone has the opportunity, the ability to decide who they want to give a paycheck to, who they want to platform. In this case, with the Candace situation, this does not strike me as a justified separation.
I do think we are going to see a lawsuit come out of this. I know Candace Owens comes from a litigious family. She actually sued the school district we both went to high school in. We are both from Stamford, Connecticut. She went to Stamford High School. I went to West Hill High School, both public schools, both with about 70% minority enrollment, both about 55% economically disadvantaged. But at the school she went to, she experienced racial discrimination. She sued the school district and ended up getting like a $3,700 settlement in a federal lawsuit. So she is someone who is known to sue when she does feel wronged. A bit of inside baseball, fascinating. We're from the same town. She graduated like 5 years before me, though, so we never crossed paths on the Stamford, Connecticut debate teams, although that would have been very interesting. But I do think we are going to see some kind of lawsuit come out of this. Candace Owens has already taken to Twitter on a few occasions to point out when people have spread false statements about her being anti-Semitic. That does get into the realm of defamation when you're saying someone's said things that are anti-Semitic. They said she reposted something they believe to be anti-Semitic, and she said, no, I did not. I liked the tweet that was about X, Y, and Z. And so it already seems to be getting into the place of, she's moving towards maybe suing for defamation. I don't know that this was a situation where the contract ended on bad terms. I do believe she did have a long-term contract with the Daily Wire. So very curious if she violated terms, if they reached an agreement there. But I really think there's going to be a lawsuit coming out of this, Amber.
Yeah, that's a good point about what happened in high school. And that was how she ended up really getting involved in sort of the political realm. She started this company. It was called Social Autopsy. That was supposed to be like it's basically a social credit score website. People accused her of trying to dox individuals who, as she put it at the time, were spreading hateful content online or bullying. And it was after that she sort of moved away and started to get into conservative politics, and then ended up making that famous video through her YouTube account, Red Pill Black, where she talked about leaving the Democratic Party and becoming a conservative. And so all of that really played into her sort of rise to fame as a conservative commentator and her transition from a progressive to a conservative. But it goes to show, to your point, that throughout her entire career, throughout her entire time as a young adult, really, she has been very interested in fighting people who she feels like wronged her. So I definitely don't think it's beyond the pale to think that she might try to go back against the Daily Wire. I think for now, she is doing her own thing on her personal platforms and trying to continue her show. I think it's also worth mentioning, by the way, that Jeremy Boring, who's the founder, or not the founder, but the current chair or president of Daily Wire, CEO rather, that's the right term, CEO of Daily Wire, said previously that they would not fire Candace, and then just a couple of months later they did. And so you have to ask what changed in that time period to have that massive transformation in terms of their posture towards one of their most popular and probably one of their biggest money-making commentators on their platform. Now, before we go, We do want to mention that Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gersovich has been jailed in Russia for a year now for doing his job, and as Russia put it, committing a crime of spying when he was actually doing journalism. We may not agree on all of the issues in this country, but we do know that we have the right to disagree, and we are lucky enough to have a free press. And every week on this show on Rising, we are trying to do exactly that by giving a voice to independent thought, to the news that you get, facts every day on this show, because we really think that that's so important in this country. And that's going to do it for us this week on Rising. Jessica, thanks again for coming on. It was great to see you.
Yeah, another great show disagreeing with you, Amber. God bless America.
We love it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.